Hi, everybody. I'm Dave Schade. I'm the director of the Division of Ag, actually sitting here in my Palmer office today. We're doing Zooms. Today, I've got two gentlemen from the Alaska Farmers Union. Harold Greene is the president and Rob Wells is the secretary treasurer. A lot of you might know Rob because he's a former director and a guy that I call every once in a while when I need to pick former director kind of issues around or kick them around with people. So with that, Harold, why don't we start? Introduce yourself, maybe talk a little bit about Alaska Farmers Union, then we'll let Rob go and we'll just have a discussion about kind of what the Farmers Union is all about, state and national, and your annual meeting that's coming up. And that would be really nice if we could do that.
Yes, I'm president of Alaska Farmers Union. I've only been in this position for, geez, I guess it's almost coming up on a year. Prior to that, it was Bob Shoemaker was our president of Alaska Farmers Union. And we're part of the National Farmers Union that's been around, for those that aren't aware of National Farmers Union, for 118 years. And we just had an anniversary and a convention in March of 2020. And every year there's a national convention, and that's a nice event for members of Alaska Farmers Union. They're welcome to come. Most states have a state chapter of the Farmers Union, and it's more of a group for the smaller family farmer. And Rob, maybe you could, pitch in a little bit on your take on, what is the Farmers Union about, from your viewpoint?
Thanks, Harold. My name's Rob Wells. I've got a small farm out here in Palmer. We bought an ag parcel from the Matsu Borough back in 1977. So after I retired, I got a little bit more serious about full-time operation. It's real modest, but it's successful. I'm a member of Alaska Farmers Union. As Harold said, it really supports the small family farm that unfortunately is disappearing across the country. And I think groups like Alaska Farmers Union and the National can help revitalize agriculture across the country. I think it's become really apparent over the last year, and Alaskans with an interest in food security have known this for some time, that local sources of quality food should be encouraged, and that means encouraging the way the Division of Agriculture, with Dave at the helm, are able to do through programs like land disposals and supporting marketing efforts. So I appreciate the ability to say a few words today, and that'll do for my introduction.
Great. So what kind of kicked this off in the discussion today is you guys have an annual meeting coming up here on Saturday the 12th. I'm going to do Zoom, something that, over the years, I've been on the board of the Farmers Union for years and past president myself. So, this is a group that I really also have spent a lot of years being involved with, and these annual meetings are really great and we all get together and enjoy them. But due to COVID this year, Harold, I think you guys decided we'll do it by Zoom. So maybe let's talk a little bit about what your ideas and when that's going to start, and let people know about how that's going to work.
Well, it's going to be a Zoom meeting, just like, similar to what we have going here now, only it's, you can participate. And if anybody would like to follow it and see what we're up to there at the annual meeting, then get a hold of either myself and, we can give our contact information out. And then we can send the link, or you could forward your inquiry to Dave and he could send you the link of the meeting, so that we could then, move forward, and it's easy to join in. And what we'll be talking about is some of our uh, policy topics that we're going to talk about, and decide things like, okay, should agriculture be, and I'm not making this right now because we haven't had the meeting to vote on it yet, but should Alaska have ag under the Department of Natural Resources, okay, which I believe it presently is, versus a separate and more inclusive Department of Agriculture that might include things such as forestry and mariculture and other things like that. And I don't know the discussions that Dave you've had over there were with what you're doing, but that's one of the topics. We're going to talk also, and I think this is really important, and that is making more ag land available in Alaska. Alaska has more land available for agriculture. If they would put it out into the marketplace for private ownership. Now, I don't quote me on this, but I believe Alaska has as much land available as the entire state of Nebraska. Or, you get up there in the northern areas in the Nenana, it is enormous. Now, it's not developed yet. And one of our big pushes is when the state of Alaska releases land for ag use, and that's open to the public. Anybody can bid on it. Okay, and there's special terms for veterans. I'm not going to get all into the land disposal program of Alaska, but I believe that's currently is on the DNR website. But that one of the things we would like to see is not just to make the land available, but do the basic, and when I say the basic improvement, like make sure there's a road that goes to it. Okay, that seems to be important. And then another basic would be something like electricity. So, not a lot, of other improvements, but that parcels are available, and you can go back and you can see how the parcels have been uh, bid in the past, if anybody's interested in that. So I'll get off that topic. I don't want to monopolize too much, but I think that's an important thing for anybody interested in ag in the future. And let me just finish with one other thing, just so people know a little more about me, and that is uh, my interest in the markets and agriculture goes back to, well, maybe it dates me if I point it out, but back to the 1970s. When I worked on the floor of the Chicago Board of Trade, even though I grew up in Alaska, when I was in college, I moved down to Chicago, and that's how I got interested in commodity markets and things like that. And one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that you don't have to lose money when you have agriculture going on. Rob's a success story. And there's also a number of smaller success stories, and that is with the peonies, which is a up and coming crop, flower crop. They're beautiful. They sell out. They're wanted globally because our time of harvest is unique. But I'll get off of that pitch and we'll move on to, Rob, you might want to add something.
Uh, yeah, my main cash production right now is a different kind of flower. I grow a flower called Dahlia. It's worked out pretty well for me. It's something I can sell over the internet. I sell them to people in Florida, New York City, Connecticut, Seattle. The Northwest has a lot of small dahlia producers, but like a lot of things we know as residents of Alaska, we have a cachet associated with Alaska that gives us a marketing advantage. And, it's a lifestyle choice. It's not your standard 9 to 5 job. It's I laugh at myself. I used to think I could do the dahlia production in 8 months and walk away for 4. It's probably more like 10 months and walk away for 2. But it's a rewarding process. And one of the things I've urged Dave at the Division of Agriculture and the borough also is to make available smaller parcels. A lot of my production gets sold mainly at farmers markets. None of us are big time producers, but overall, there's a lot of production by small farmers in Alaska. And it needs to be encouraged with land offerings that aren't necessarily 40, 160, and 640 acres. It's not grain production, but it's meaningful production. And there's a lot of, as we all know, great food production, carrots, tomatoes, cucumbers, potatoes, all kinds of variety of crops that Alaskan farmers are growing. So, but Harold's right. You know, we need a land base and we need basic infrastructure, including electricity, and we appreciate the effort that the division does through the Alaska Grown Marketing Program that lets people know where we are, when we are, and what we're selling.
Well, great. That's a really good start, and that's a really good focus on Alaska agriculture. I know you guys have mentored, Rob. I know you mentor people and help. So let's switch up a little bit. And you know, we've got a new incoming administration, and part of that, you know, I think is going to put some new people at the helm. So. Rob, I know you've dealt with the DC and the transition of administrations. Maybe you can lead off, and you know, how do you think Alaska Farmers Union and the National Farmers Union are going to be situated to help transition and protect and develop the family farms?
Well, Dave, thanks for the question. I'm gonna stay away from any partisanship, of course. We are going to have a new administration. When the president-elect was vice president, I know the National Farmers Union was a big supporter of then President Obama. There was good communication, I think, and an emphasis on keeping agriculture is a viable industry. We hear a lot about, you know, rural and agriculture areas are overlooked when it comes to different administrations. But I think this administration will be working hard to make outreach to rural communities to keep them healthy, you know, to keep them healthy so they can get the technology, whether it be broadband, you know, keep communities healthy so they have a hospital within 4 hours of where people live. Really important in these times, of course, but it's important in the long term. So I think given the state of the economy right now, there's all kinds of innovative. I know there's been talk of some of the programs that were popular a long time ago, but there's work to do in the forest to remove dead beetle kill, remove fire hazard, create industry and logs for people who turn logs into fine woodworking products. You know, USDA has the national forests within it. And of course, we have amazing forests in Alaska. And we have people, I've got a friend who comes out here and cuts a birch tree every now and again and makes those incredible birch bowls. And you know, the possibilities are out there with changes in the climate. I think we all know that, you know, crops we've heard that just aren't ever going to be viable. Well, a lot of them may not be in the short term, but some are. And so working, one of the things I tried to do, and I know Dave is also, when I was director, is, you know, really establish a good link with our USDA counterparts in Alaska. Because when we're communicating, we're creating some energy that then we can unified go to the congressional delegation. And I always found them to be very helpful. You know, Don Young in the House, Senators Murkowski and Sullivan. Senator Murkowski's always been real helpful. And it's good to know that Dave's keeping us in their minds. Senator Stevens was really good at identifying the USDA as a supporter of agriculture in big states and large states. And it's kind of funny, we feel that on both ends. We're geographically the biggest, but unfortunately, because we're still developing our agriculture, we're down there with Rhode Island in terms of overall production. But we know we can do better as we transition this Alaskan economy to be more self-sufficient at food production and encourage other natural resource industries, which agriculture is a core of. That's the directions I think we can go with the federal delegation and the new administration.
And I'd like to add on to that with the new administration, what I believe Alaska really does need is for the federal government and the people at USDA to some degree understand that we're never going to be the same as Iowa or Minnesota or Illinois, okay, in the next century or so. So what we do need is we need some programs that are special for Alaska. For example, crop insurance. If somebody would like to actually turn this into a larger scale farming business, well, crop insurance, the way it works, just doesn't fit quite the needs of Alaska. And even with a little bit of warming up, whether it's 1 degree or 1.5 degrees, and I haven't seen a study on this, Dave, maybe that's something we should do at some point, and that is do a study to, you know, if we have a 1 degree temperature increase, okay, that adds, does it add 2 weeks or 3 weeks of to the growing season? And then even with an expansion of the season and now new crops and even traditional crops such as barley, well, now you'll get a much better yield per acre, which is really important. But then we'll need to have a crop insurance, and that's usually done by the federal government to ensure that, you know, that 1 out of 10 years or however often it would be, I don't know the probabilities, don't quote me on that, 1 out of 10 years, but you are going to get an occasional early frost no matter how well you plan. And that's how the federal government could come in to provide some assistance, is with a crop insurance that could fit the needs of Alaskan farmers that are growing grains like barley and canola. Let's not forget canola. That's another, you know, high value crop that is growing throughout Canada, actually, mostly in the central, from Manitoba over to Alberta, is, you know, massive amounts of canola is growing. And of course, then we need an elevator and some other infrastructure. And these are some of the things Alaska Farmers Union would like to see happen in addition, and I'm saying in addition to the small family farmer who might just want to do a small vegetable or some other flower crop or something like that. The other thing I would like to just toss out too is that in addition to an annual meeting at the National Farmers Union, there's also an event called the Fly-In. And the Fly-In is really important because what that does is that allows, okay, we can send a delegate, and we do. Actually, every year we send somebody to Washington, D.C., and it's typically 3 days long. And you go from, one congressman's office to the next, and typically 500 or more farmers hit Washington, D.C. on the Fly-In, and they're with the National Farmers Union. All of the chapters from all the various states come, and they have conferences with all of the senators and all of the House of Representatives, members of those two institutions, uh, to hear, typically it's about 15 minutes to 20 minutes with each congressman and with each senator. I've done it, and it's exciting. I mean, when I did it, I'm going, geez, this reminds me of, some of these old movies I watched when I was a kid growing up. I'm going to go to Washington and talk to congressmen. I mean, and it's also interesting for somebody that might be interested in a career as a lobbyist for farming. So that's another benefit of joining something like the Alaska Farmers Union, because it's every year we provide it. People can come to Washington. You'll get to see how the the government works as far as with the different congressmen, and you'll also meet a lot of the farmers from all over the country. Now this year, of course, we had it by Zoom, which is a little bit different, but I'm optimistic that next year it will be, the vaccines coming out probably in spring for the mainstream Americans. And I think we're going, and again, I'm no scientist on this, but I'm optimistic that we're going to have a Fly-In next September. And that's typically when we have those.
Well, great. So, guys, I think you've given a really good flavor of the organization and some of the thoughts. So our half hour is getting pretty close to the end. So the one thing that we can do is we'll post your information and the Zoom information on our division webpage, our Facebook, so people can do that. But I'll give you I always give my guests each a couple of minutes to close out. So Rob, why don't you close out, and then Harold can do that, and then give your contact information if you want.
Well, first, Dave, thanks for the opportunity. Your presence at the division is a real positive for all of agriculture in Alaska. And personally, I can certainly say I appreciate it. And your openness, this Facebook program is evidence of the outreach you're doing. And I think you'll be continuing to do. I know you've got some exciting projects in the works at the division, and when you're ready to get them out there, you will be doing that. And I think they tie into some of the priorities of the Alaska Farmers Union. So, joining organizations can be a real positive thing. And my experience with Alaska Farmers Union and the National Farmers Union has been nothing but that. I've been to both the annual conferences of the major agricultural organizations in the country, the American Farm Bureau and the National Farmers Union, and both advocate well for agriculture in the USA. But I can say that the primary focus of Farmers Union is on small and developing agriculture and addressing some of the big issues of our time that include climate change and food security and you know, addressing some of the historical realities of who and how people of color and women are supported in their agricultural efforts. And I think that's real exciting. So thanks again for the opportunity today. And we look forward to, at the Alaska Farmers Union, look forward to working with the division in the future.
Yep, thanks. I am on the agenda to give a presentation to kind of what we're doing. So that'll be part of that conversation. Thanks, Rob, so much for your kind comments.
All right.
You bet.
And I'd like to, and I'd like to just add a few things, and that is, you don't have to be actively in farming to join Alaska Farmers Union. And if you're interested in food, and who isn't? I mean, we all eat food,
Right.
okay? And if you've gone to a farmer's market, okay, and most people have, maybe not each week, but you know, periodically, any interest in agriculture is important to have more members and more of the public get interested in what they're eating, where it's coming from, things like that. The small family farmer, or if somebody wants to, you know, get interested in, I'll call it hobby farming, you know, they're not going to, you know, go out and try to get a bank loan and, you know, set up 40 acres or 160 acres, but they just would just like to, you know, get into some smaller operation. Alaska Farmers Union is exactly the kind of an organization. It's low cost. It costs to become a member, it's $40 a year. There's a host of benefits, from discounts at places like Spenard Builders and other local merchants. So, I mean, your membership can actually pay for itself. But the other thing I'd like to point out is our annual meeting, and that is on Saturday, December 12th at 10 a.m. Okay, and you can do it this year. I mean, typically we've had it up in the, actually, we had it up in the Big Lake area last year. We've had it from, you know, years past. We've had it in Palmer. We've had it down in Homer. We've had it in a variety of settings, but this year it'll be Zoom. It doesn't cost anything to attend. And Dave would send you the link if you have an interest. Dave, I believe you're going to put that up on, you
Yeah,
said
we'll post it.
You'll post it. So anybody, you know, you're welcome to participate, to come to the Zoom meeting at 10 a.m. on Saturday, the 12th of December. And you're all welcome. I think you'll find it worthwhile and well worth your time. Thank you.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining in. As Rob says, you know, when John came aboard, he helped set up our new modern day operation with Facebook, and he even does some tweets for me every once in a while. I don't even have a Twitter account yet, but he's dragging the old guy along. So again, thank you guys so much for joining in today. I'll see you guys on the 12th. I definitely will be there to do a presentation in that. Folks, thanks so much. See you next week.
Dave, can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, John, go ahead.
We have one question. Would you like to take a moment to answer?
Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't have that. So go right ahead.
Yeah, the question is from Laura, and she says, is there any way for Alaskan agriculture and the state to be able to make it easier to get experienced farmers into the state via immigration, etc.? There is a vast knowledge base in regards to people that want to move to the state to help kickstart the Alaskan agriculture and make a long-term life there.
So the short answer, that is a very long discussion. Rob has been actively involved in that. Harold, you know, we all have been here a long time. So, you know, it's the state constitution and our Supreme Court made it very clear everybody's to be treated equally, and that you can't have a requirement for experience on any of our programs for land selection and that. But we do encourage people to come up. We do make it wide open, and we will be advertising all of our programs and the availability of these lands to all the citizens of Alaska and around the country. So That is definitely one of those things where we encourage people to come. We encourage our local folks to grow. I think there's room for all. One of my goals, I said everybody eats, so it's everybody's business. And I tell you what, I tell everybody, we just build a bigger pie. There's plenty of room. We don't have to be fighting over who gets the small piece of pie. The market's out there.
Yeah.
We can build production are incredible. And I've got a great marketing staff. We've got some new innovative ideas that we're working on. I can tell you that a couple of weeks ago at the Farm Bureau meeting, which I was also at, Rob mentioned, that's the two major farm groups. The governor came out and said, ag will be a cornerstone of our economic recovery. Food security is a prime concern of the administration now. And so, I want everybody to know that we in the department and in the division have the support of the administration. I really appreciate the two major farm groups and all their support. I think that, everybody should get involved. Everybody eats. This is not a political issue to me. This is everybody should be supporting ag. And so, pick your flavor, in which group, whether it be a peony group, rhodiola group, seed potatoes, you name it, we are supporting everybody equally and alike. And so, that's why I think it's so important that we have these discussions and we let people know the huge opportunities. Rural broadband has been a key cornerstone of this administration. I think the next administration has already said they want to improve upon that. And so, that's a win-win, right? It doesn't matter which side of this equation you're on. What we have to do is support our farming community because they feed the entire world. And so with that, thank you, John. We're a little over, but that's always fine. Harold, Rob, thanks guys so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. And I'll be talking to you soon.
Thanks, Dave, and so long.
Bye all.
Thanks, Dave.